Virgo and Virgo rising, and we're looking at Mercury big time. And this was a conversation I started having yesterday with folks that were on my webinar. I did a webinar yesterday on the February astrology, Biden's first 100 days, looking at his cabinet and looking at COVID-19. So there was a lot packed into about an hour of my talk. And if you're interested in that talk, I am going to be selling it. Probably we'll get a link to that tomorrow. But let me know. Just shoot me a DM, and I will put you on my mailing list or send you a link. But the reason I bring this up is that Mercury, I had mentioned to Virgos that it might be a good time to go dark. And this is a phrase that sounds a little bit more dramatic, I think, than I intended it to be. But because Mercury is such an important planet for Virgos, it's really a place, and it's in the Virgo house for you this coming week, especially if you're Virgo rising. It's time to reassess your own health and well-being, Virgo. It's time to focus on your processes, your routines, your workflow, what's working in that workflow and what isn't. Also looking at, if you have them, any employees, any staff members, and how that arrangement needs to change and evolve. And it also is, I think you've been working really hard for a long time and the joy has been somewhat diminished. And this Mercury retrograde, coupled with the full moon in Leo, is a time to recover. The full moon is in the 12th house for you, Virgo, and that's a place of renewal and replenishment. So I don't know what it looks like when we're in quarantine. I would say, go get a manicure, go get a massage, go get a facial, do something really indulgent that is just for you. So if there's anything you can do within the limitations of the COVID quarantine, do it. Maybe it's just taking a long bath, but I do think for you, it may be about being in nature. Using the Mercury slowdown, though, Virgo, is going to be really important to your own sense of well-being. I think it's time for you to reassess, to step back and get perspective, to look at the effort you have put in and figure out, was it worth it, or does it need to be tweaked? What areas of my output do I need to tweak so that I'm getting more, or that I'm at least balancing the output for the input, the reciprocal nature of what I'm giving versus what I'm getting. And I don't mean this in a selfish way. I mean it in a very practical way. You want to look at, again, this square to the Mars-Uranus. This is very much about perspective. It could also be a crisis of faith. It could be a time where you're looking at what you've put into something and you're looking and saying, I might need to cut my losses on some of this and then keep some of this. So it's not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, Virgo, but it is looking and saying, okay, this was worth it. This was definitely a good investment of time. This, however, was not, and I need to kind of change that. So I would use you could use this whole Mercury retrograde time. The station this week is really all about the station, slowing down. And then next week, it's going to be all about the retrograde for 3 weeks. And then it's going to be about basically at a standstill for a couple weeks, about 10 days. So we have a long, we're looking at 5 weeks of assessment, reassessment, editing, refining, reflecting. I'm trying to think of some more Virgo words, but it is a lot of reassessment. And when you come out of that, Virgo, we're down to looking at February 27th, this beautiful Virgo full moon. That's going to be a time of much more clarity, and that's not 5 weeks away. You're still in the Mercury shadow period, but you're almost done with it at that point, I believe. But so, use this time to just kind of reassess. And through the reassessment, you may be able to find new ways of moving forward. It's not like you can't get anything done during Mercury retrograde, but you're definitely going to want to be tweaking all the way through.